Hi, I'm Malini Shankar. I'm a wildlife photojournalist, radio broadcaster, blogger and documentary filmmaker based in Bangalore in India. I opted for freelancing because of two reasons. One was because I wanted to specialize in subjects which fascinate me, like environment, indigenous people, etc. I was also interested in earth sciences, disaster management, ocean sciences, etc. So freelancing gave me the independence to specialize in these subjects. I've been freelancing since 1992 and I've now realized that I need to create a team so that we can widen our news base. The second reason I opted to freelance was beat reporting was not entirely for me. Given the fact that I'm physically challenged, I didn't feel very confident of deadline on a daily basis. As luck would have it, I was introduced to an environmental activist from the Western Ghats, a mountain range on India's west coast. Now, the Western Ghats is a biodiversity hotspot. What makes it a biodiversity hotspot is the fact that there is a lot of environmental conflict in the Western Ghats. There is a vast forest range, but it is plagued by conservation challenges, let's say. There are polemics of development. The government wants to build dams, highways and railways. It seems to be the prime real estate for all development. So that increases the pressure on conservation, and that's what makes it a biodiversity hotspot. So this environmental activist introduced me to issues such as polemics of development, that is, people were losing livelihoods in terms of plantations and paddy fields. There were indigenous people who did not have livelihood. There were fisher folk who were dependent on rivers, but the dams were being built across rivers. Their livelihoods were at stake. There were victims of wildlife attack, bear attack victims. There was a man-eating panther. So these were issues which I was exposed to. And bingo, I started writing about it. I went to the area, I went, did spot reporting, conducted interviews, photography, data mining, research, and came back and wrote articles. One of the newspapers misplaced the photograph of a bear attack victim. All my efforts went futile. I had to redo the shooting again. So it was a lot of struggle. That became a yardstick in environmental journalism. Many people called it path breaking.
I have known Malini Shankar since the days she was a cub freelancing for local newspapers. Her dedicated service in the field of environment, wildlife and nature conservation is very impressive, particularly the wildlife conservation, and I write up on endangered species is very powerful. After seeing her dedicated service in the field of environment conservation, the Karnataka Forest Department appointed her as honorary tree warden in Bangalore Greenbelt Division. Indeed, she was most articulate tree advocate of Bangalore. We had never before seen article in local newspapers before she started writing on these issues. I can say she is pioneer in environmental journalism.
I particularly remember one news story that she did. I think that was probably in Times of India, where she highlighted the issues and the challenges that the mobile squad of the forest department faced. She's been an inspiration to people around her through her passion towards wilderness, and also by the way she has complemented her passion with her communication skills.
We often, as journalists, encounter these kind of issues where we need to find a solution to many problems. But that's when you realize that as a single person with the pen alone you can't do much. You need the support of policies, you need infrastructure, you need a lot of these things, team support more than anything else. So all these people have to come together to find a solution.
I would like to thank the people of those 12 villages who have been rehabilitated to the other place, and they have taken a very brave decision to leave the forest and come out for the wildlife cause.
Till now, the forest department has done a good job by convincing them and bringing them out, where we identify the land and we give them a particular package which includes money, the cash grants, the house and the site there where they are living, all the amenities over there.
It was when I met the victims of wildlife attack that it hit me in the face. I mean, there are people who live cheek by jowl with wildlife. They are living in tiger terrain. I met people who were attacked by wild boar, sloth bear. There were snake bite victims. There were survivors of man-eating tiger, man-eating panther. Oh, it tears you inside when you see survivors of a man-eating panther, wolf or tiger. Whom do you defend here? It's amazing. And what brought them to this position, to hapless a choice between the devil and the deep sea, so to say. What's missing is a transparent governance. And there were vested interests who were defending the status quo, so to say. People who wanted things to remain the same. Why? That's the question. It is also our responsibility to pose questions, to ask probing questions, and to make sure that we come up with the society comes up with some kind of a solution. It's easy to say these kind of cliched things, but then let me envision this for you with a couple of examples. How do we come to solutions for problems such as lack of integration of the forest dwelling tribes? What about the livelihood security of forest dwelling indigenous people? These are issues that India as a transitionary society has to cope with. We in the media, we have to engage with certain questions. It could be public health issues. I mean, today we have rampant diabetes. It's assumed epidemic proportions even in the rural areas. HIV. There are endless number of issues. It's the media that has to engage in these issues to find sustainable and plausible solutions to make this world a better place for all of us to live in. Some years ago, I had to do an article and then a film on an endangered subspecies of a bat. Now this bat was so endangered because it numbers only 185 and it's found to be breeding in only one cave in the whole world.
The Automops rotani or Rotten's free-tailed bat are found only in 3 places in the world. It has been scientifically established that the bats are not more than 185 in number. Since they are breeding and roosting only in this cave, and the number is so small, that's why they are critically endangered species.
But as a result of my film, the government of Karnataka abandoned the idea of constructing a minor irrigation dam which would have submerged the cave. So that was the conservation quotient that we were attempting to arrive at. So this is one of the challenges in conservation communications. And on another occasion recently in February 2014, I was interviewing a tsunami survivor in Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu. This gentleman lost all his 3 children on his 40th birthday to the tsunami. When he was narrating his incident, I started crying. I gave up all pretenses to professionalism, closed my book, choked, and tears were just flowing down. I was inconsolable. I wasn't in any shape to even console this man who had lost 3 of his children. And how do they overcome such a tragedy? The next day, Mr. Parameswaran was thinking of committing suicide. But then 3 days later, his wife fought both husbands' idea of suicide and the Lord. They went out, they saw the misery wrought by the tsunami in other fishing villages, and they brought home orphan children. They opened their house to make it an orphanage for tsunami orphans. He was considered and reported as a hero of the tsunami. Can we even think of a better way of coming to terms with such tremendous tragedy? Words fail me, that's all I can say. I mean, he was incredibly sensitive, incredibly heroic. These are the kind of people you meet in journalism. On another occasion, this was when I was introduced to the Western Ghats by the environmental activist. I'd been told that a lady had been mauled by the bear. Finding her was a big challenge. I had to roam around the whole district 3 times over to locate her. I didn't have anything more than her name to start off my research with. I went around the district 3 times without funding or in public transport in the day and age when there were no mobile phones in India, and I finally managed through hearsay to get through to the person concerned. I had to trek through 7 kilometers of forest terrain, wildlife infested, snake infested tiger terrain to reach her place, and her household was a very modest straw hut. The deep desolate jungle. She was living cheek by jowl with forest animals, wild animals. When I met her and she told me her story, and then on another occasion I filmed her, and after the expenses were barely recovered, I gave away the money that I earned from the film to her again. There are a lot of victims of snake bite, wildlife attack victims. We need to portray them, and we need to ask them as to what they want, what their aspirations are. That is when we will find solutions, and if we can actually satiate those demands, or those demands are not as complex as we urbanites would have, but then that's the way we need to meet their aspirations. When I spoke about this wild bear attack victim in Germany, I managed to raise some money for her, brought it back and gave it to her. She managed to repay her loans with this amount of, it was not officially compensation, but some kind of aid money. She was not even entitled to compensation because her treatment was in another state. The government of Karnataka refused to compensate her. She was an illegal encroacher in forest terrain, so to say. So there was no way there was a legal means of giving her any kind of compensation. The least we can do is to ameliorate her lot, and there are many such victims of wildlife attack. And they have debilitating after effects for the rest of their lives. How do we give them employment solutions? These are the kind of issues that engage at least me, and I do want to make a difference. On another occasion, I went on a recce or research trip in a snake-infested reserved forest. There was a legal contention issue. I was conducting a recce for a photo shoot. Bingo, I fell and I broke my bone on my fit leg. We still do not have medical insurance as freelancers. Such are the hazards we face in freelance journalism. When the Sariska crisis happened in 2004, 22 tigers were wiped clean by poachers in the Sariska Tiger Reserve in Rajasthan by blood boiled. I was in the United States studying filmmaking in New York. I wasn't able to do anything, and it hit me in the face. In 2006, however, I was hired by a German television production house in Cologne, Germany, and we did a well-funded television documentary called Eco-Crimes, The Tibetan Connection. It took 2 years for research to complete. Then we did the production and filming in Sariska, etc. And the film went on to win 13 International Film Festival Awards. It was translated into 9 European languages and was rebroadcast in 16 countries around Europe. But then television documentaries, by its very nature, has a short shelf life. People don't remember it after a certain time. So you need sustained engagement. It was a well-paid assignment for me, and I also became very familiar with the kind of issues that were plaguing tiger conservation or wildlife conservation. After I finished this, I committed myself to doing a multimedia series on tiger conservation. That series that I had conceptualized included about 91 English print media articles, 58 regional language articles, 13 web publications, 52 radio documentaries, 26 television documentaries, 18 webcasts, 43 photo features, and so on. But I failed to get funding. Without funding, however, with the money I had earned from the German television production, I managed to pull off one 13-episode radio documentary series of expert interviews for Gyanvani FM radio of Indira Gandhi National Open University, and I also did a 13-part article series for the web portal India Together. Now this kind of sustained attention is what is necessary to engage the community to find solutions of human-animal conflict, the issues that bring about crises like poaching, because just addressing the symptomatic symptoms of crises like say poaching will not solve the problems. We need to address the real issues. That calls for sustained engagement through the media. At Vistar Media Research and Activist Forum, a registered not-for-profit society, we are going to start a multi-channel developmental communications portal or forum comprising of dedicated audio and video channels on demand for issues like biodiversity, climate change, disaster management, indigenous peoples issues, wildlife conservation, etc. To be able to start and sustain a multiple channel developmental communications portal, we need enormous resources. As part of this portal, we plan to start hosting online around 1,620 documentaries per year with allied content like full-length unedited expert interviews, panel discussions, phone-in programs, Q&A, quiz programs and other interactive fora, weekly commentaries, etc. All this would amount to about 4,500 programs per year available online for subscribers on demand, all of which will aim at offering or arriving at plausible, sustainable solutions and options. We need funding for construction of studio, editing consoles, websites, softwares, cameras, light and audio sets, professional crews and teams, transport, food and travel, telecom bandwidth, power supply, insurance and other unexpected field expenses. We estimate that we need for the first 3 years at the rate of around $230,000 per annum, an amount that cannot be raised from either advertising revenue or subscription fees. Secondly, to be able to achieve results, such content should be made available copyright free so that the have-nots will be delivered from misery. The economic model of Vistar Media Research and Activist Forum will help us achieve inclusive sustainable development, including livelihood security for the differently abled, indigenous communities, illiterate rural masses, the have-nots, etc. Hence, we need your support. We appeal through Indiegogo to help us raise funding through crowdsourcing. We are confident that our media content will inspire change. Please help us help others in need. With the help of the pen and the camera lens alone, we wish to reach out to the children of a lesser God and the voiceless, voteless wildlife. I trust my appeal will not go unheeded. Please help us. We will be truthful and transparent about accounts and earnestly want to do our best. Should you have any questions, please feel free to revert to us. Our contact details are put up here. I thank you for tuning in. I thank you in advance for your support. I'm Malini Shankar, Secretary of the Vistar Media Research and Activist Forum, signing off now.
Her dedication to conservation and her professionalism is impressive. I am very happy to see Malini grow from strength to strength in the last 20 odd years that I have known her. I wish her all the success in the days to come.
It's really a pleasure knowing her, and I wish her all the best in her endeavors in the future. And I hope to continue learning from her and sharing with her the wonderful things that we know in common. Thanks.